From the All Indiana Podcast Network.
The All Indiana Podcast Network.
This is the News 8 Daily 8.
Now all the latest news.
Kylie Conway has all the news you need to know.
And more.
Please stand by.
Now, here's Wish TV's Kylie Conway.
Hi, this is Kylie Conway, and this is the News 8 Daily 8 for Monday, July 6th. Got a tough story to report coming out of Monroe County today. It's now gaining national attention already. Sarah Hignite has been on the story, and she's actually spoke to the person at the center of all of this. It all began as a group of friends was trying to get down to watch the eclipse over the weekend on July 4th. So they weren't doing the 4th of July festivities, small group of people going, and they went to cut through a path, which they thought they'd gotten previous permission to do. We're walking through, and they were encountered by another group of people, and this is where everything went wrong. So Sierra, from what I understand, Vox Booker, he is an activist, he is a black man, and he was with a group of people who were white. He was the only black man there. And this other group of people claimed that he was walking on their property. Then he later found out that wasn't their property.
Right. Yeah, it was not the people's property. He says that while they were, I interviewed Vox earlier, he said while they were, walking to this lunar eclipse party, that someone from another group was yelling towards his group of friends, chanting white power. So he is an activist. He's actually a member of the Monroe County Human Rights Commission. So he said that he had gone over there to de-escalate the situation. He said they were talking to who they think is maybe the most sober person in that group. And then a man had come up that was in that group who was acting belligerent, yelling at them. He said that's when they just decided to walk away. Then that is when someone ran up behind them, and that's when the attack started. They grabbed him. He said they were hitting him. They kind of fumbled around at one point. Both of the men were on the ground. He then gets up and he's dragged to a tree. He says that is when he heard one of the men in the group yell for someone to get a noose. He said that, while they were holding him down, that there were multiple racial slurs used, towards him and towards their group. And he also heard at one point one of the men in the group threatened that they were going to break his arm. So this all happened, very quickly. And we do have a video of part of this altercation. And that's kind of where it picks up, is after, he is drugged to the tree. Those threats had been made. And even a woman in the group, he said, yelled to one of the men, "You're going to kill him." So that's kind of when that video that's now been shared or has been seen over 1 million times picks up and shared thousands of times.
Yeah, so I'm on Vox's Facebook page right now. That's where he initially posted it, just encouraging people to share. It's been shared as of 3:48 p.m. Monday, 122,000 times, has 26,000 comments. I'm going to play a little bit of one of the videos. There are 3. This is where we get our explicit warning today because there might be some racial slurs. So there are definitely some curse words here. So just keep that in mind before you have anyone with maybe some little ears listening here.
Sean, let him go. We're just trying to get out of here, guys. We're just trying to get out of here. Let him go.
So keep in mind, right now we're watching the video, and it has Vox on the ground. He's not moving. He's up against the tree, and he has a man leaned over him and some other people trying to get him to let go. I mean, you wonder what's going on here.
I know, it's very bizarre. Vox had said that some of the people in this group are drunk, and that the man who had attacked him seemed to be drunk. And you can see, his daughter, she yells to him, "Dad, let him go." There's other adults in this group who are yelling to let him go. And then at the end of this video that we just watched, the other people in the group see that they're being recorded and on video. And that's when tensions kind of take a turn from the other people in the group, where they approach now the bystanders, Vox's friends, and, yell for them to get away. If they get away, then they'll let Vox go, is what they're telling him. Just a very bizarre situation that happened. And I think it happened so quickly that Vox, he told me, he was like, I didn't even realize what was going on until it all had happened. And he said a lot of people just around, obviously, if you go to the lake on the 4th of July or 4th of July weekend, there's so many people there. Mm-hmm. He said it started out as just, the small group of friends he was going to this party with, and then more bystanders came. And actually the person that took that video that we just watched didn't even know Vox before the situation, had seen what was going on, and then started taking the video. And that's where people gathered and were yelling to let him go.
Yeah, he specifically gives a shout out on his Facebook post, like, thanks to all the bystanders who don't even know me, who came and were there to help. What's also pretty alarming about all of this to me is that there's video evidence of a lot of this, and they've called the police, they called the DNR, and no action was really taken until this kind of exploded on the media.
Right, yes. Yesterday, DNR did come. By the time they had got there, obviously everything had already happened. That actually the people that came, they were already on a boat on the lake and had to kind of drive up and find them. So the altercation had already taken place. They did take a report. They told us this morning when I talked to them that we'd get that report as soon as it was done. Now we know that they've met with the prosecutor multiple times today and have asked to interview Vox for a third time, that DNR has. We still have not gotten the report that they referred to this morning, but no one was arrested on the scene. The Marion County Prosecutor's Office said that they didn't have the Monroe County Prosecutor's Office said that they didn't really have a reason to at that point, and that they were still looking into it. But as of now, no arrests, no charges have been filed in this case. And, Vox, being a black man, he says he doesn't even describe it as an attack. He said they threatened to lynch him on the 4th of July. Someone who is, a human rights activist, especially in a time like this, where all of these just, talk about racial equality and things like that are kind of going on all over the world. He just said, I really couldn't believe that happened to me on that day, to someone like me who's fighting for equality. And
in his post, too, he says, I'm a leader in so many fronts, and right now I have no idea what to do, and a leader is supposed to know what to do. It's so sad. It's a lot of people, of course, most of the thousands and thousands of comments here are saying, we're appalled by this. What can we do? That's certainly what we want to see at the point like this, but there's also some statements that have been released from some different entities involved. One is from a joint statement from Bloomington Mayor John Hamilton and the Bloomington City Clerk, Nicole Bolden. It says, on behalf of the city of Bloomington, we would like to express outrage and grief relating to two apparent racially motivated incidents reported in our community over the July 4th weekend. A group of individuals physically assaulted and denounced and threatened with racial epithets one black resident of Bloomington on nearby Indiana State Park land at Lake Monroe. And a sheriff's deputy from a neighboring county questioned and detained another black Bloomington resident walking down the Bloomington street where they live in an apparent example of racial profiling. These separate incidents exemplify the persistence of racism and bias in our country and our own community. They deserve nothing less than our collective condemnation. They require that we come together as a whole and recognize that racism damages all of us, not just our residents of color. We deserve better, and we must make it happen. Videos of the events remind us of the importance of witnesses and witnessing. Each of us must do our part to assure justice for those harmed in this weekend's incidents and do everything we can to forge inclusion and equity in Bloomington and beyond. We've reached out to the prosecutor's office. Still haven't heard back from them.
Nope.
Okay.
We've reached out to a lot of community leaders, state leaders, and have gotten statements. And anyone that we've heard back from has very much said, this is not what we stand for. This is not okay, and justice must be served. But again, there are still no arrests made in this. And something I thought was interesting that Vox told me today, he said, a direct quote, actually, that I have here with me. He said, I was absolutely certain that they were trying to kill me, but I refused to be another hashtag. Yeah. Obviously referencing everything that's been going on. And he said, you hear that a lot of, these black people that have been killed, some of their last words are, I can't breathe. He said, at one point I had 5 people on top of me and I really couldn't breathe. And that's, he said, when it kind of clicked in his head, am I going to die here? Am I going to hear my death narrated to me, is what he said, while I'm sitting here. And he didn't fight back in any of the videos. It's not described in any reports or by any witnesses that he ever fought back. And we mentioned earlier all those people that had kind of come almost to his rescue, to say, hey, let this man go. And he said that he thinks that that's one of the reasons why he is still alive, is because so many people stepped in to say, what you're doing is not okay. Let him go, no matter what he did, which we all obviously know in this case was nothing. It was a verbal altercation, but that it does not, this is not okay. This is not an outright response.
And we know that today is just really the beginning of digging into the story and finding out who these people are, what happened, charges, will they be filed? I know that Vox's attorney is planning on that happening, says that it probably will. So that's something else we'll see. If charges are filed, what are they? Who are they against? So, Sierra, thanks for taking time. I know you're crunched under the gun right here for your deadline at 5 p.m. You got that story. So people listening can tune into Wish TV at 5, find the interview with Vox 2 that's going to be airing. And maybe we can get some of that on the podcast for you tomorrow, too, maybe more in depth and hear from Vox. But Sierra, thanks. Appreciate it.
Yes, thanks for having me.
And we do have other news to get to today. First, a follow-up. A white woman walking her dog who called the police during a videotaped dispute with a black man in Central Park was charged today with filing a false report. In May, Amy Cooper drew widespread condemnation for calling 911 to report she was being threatened by an African-American man. When birdwatcher Christian Cooper appeared to keep his distance as he recorded her rant on his phone, District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr. said in a statement today that his office had charged Amy Cooper with falsely reporting the confrontation, which is a misdemeanor. She was ordered to appear in court again on October 14th. Here in Indiana, Indiana's Republican delegates are casting ballots as the time nears to select who will run for state attorney general in November. The spotlight, of course, is on incumbent Indiana Attorney General Curtis Hill, who must convince delegates that he deserves a second term despite misconduct allegations. Hill's challengers include Todd Rokita, a former member of Congress and two-term Indiana Secretary of State, Decatur County Prosecutor Nate Harder, and Indianapolis lawyer John Westerkamp. The GOP nominee will face the Democratic candidate, former Evansville Mayor Jonathan Weinzapfel. The Supreme Court ruled unanimously that states can require presidential electors to back their state's popular vote winner in the Electoral College. The ruling, just under 4 months before the 2020 election, leaves in place laws in 32 states and the District of Columbia that bind electors to vote for the popular vote winner. And electors almost always do so anyway. So-called faithless electors have not been critical to the outcome of a presidential election, but that could change in a race decided by just a few electoral votes. It takes 270 electoral votes to win the presidency. Fox News said today that it mistakenly cropped President Trump out of a photograph that featured the accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein and his alleged accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell. In a statement from Fox News, it says, on Sunday, July 5th, a report on Ghislaine Maxwell during Fox News Channel's America's News HQ mistakenly eliminated President Donald Trump from a photo alongside then Melania Knauss and Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell. A spokesperson from the network said that. The Fox News spokesperson added, "We regret the error." Maxwell was also charged with federal prosecutors in New York on Thursday for her alleged role in recruiting and sexually abusing underage girls as part of a years-long criminal enterprise. Trump's allies have played up ties between former Democratic President Bill Clinton and Epstein, sometimes by sharing old photos in which both of them appear, while downplaying photos that show Trump and Epstein together. A Clinton spokesperson said in 2019 the former president knew nothing about the terrible crimes the convicted pedophile committed. Fox News' egregious cropping of Trump from the photo drew criticism and prompted unflattering media coverage for the conservative cable network. The photograph aired during a segment about Maxwell being charged by federal prosecutors. It's not the first time in recent weeks that Fox News has acknowledged a significant error related to photos accompanying news stories. In mid-June, Fox News expressed regret after it published digitally altered and misleading images of the CHOP demonstration in Seattle. And going off of Maxwell's arrest, longtime confidant Ghislaine Maxwell, just mentioned her a moment ago. She has been transferred now to New York to face the charges that she recruited women and girls for him to sexually abuse. The Bureau of Prisons confirmed that Maxwell was transferred today and is currently being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. Prosecutors have asked a judge to schedule a Friday court appearance in Manhattan federal court for Maxwell. The 58-year-old was arrested last week at a $1 million estate she had purchased in New Hampshire. Maxwell was the former girlfriend and longtime close associate of Epstein. Of course, Epstein killed himself in jail last August while he was waiting that trial on his federal sex trafficking charges. Maxwell has denied wrongdoing and called claims against her absolute rubbish. Now to the Indiana Fever. The team has announced that its trip to Florida has been put on hold after the franchise learned that 2 of its players have tested positive for COVID-19. 137 players were tested league-wide and 7 tested positive. The team didn't release the names of its 2 players who tested positive for COVID. As for what's next for the Fever, after consulting with the WNBA and league health officials, the team's expected to arrive at IMG Academy later this week. Games are currently scheduled to begin on July 24th with fans in attendance. The team declined our interview request earlier today. Now, the 2 Fever players who tested positive will not travel with the team until they are cleared by a physician. Coronavirus cases in 32 states are still going up. Some health officials say a spike in new cases in the U.S. proves some states reopened too soon. Doctors are now worried about more hospitalizations and deaths in the coming weeks. In Florida, officials shut down multiple beaches, hoping to avoid July 4th crowds. Still, the state reported nearly 10,000 new coronavirus cases Sunday, bringing the state's total to more than 200,000. Texas also reported its second highest daily total over the weekend. Infection rates are holding steady in 14 states. Just 4 states, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Kentucky, and New Hampshire, are seeing declines in new cases. To Indiana's numbers, health leaders announced 330 new COVID-19 cases. That brings the total to 48,331. The state also announced 5 new deaths, meaning there are now 2,505 total deaths related to the virus in Indiana. And you might know the song Devil Went Down to Georgia. Well, the man with that hit, Charlie Daniels, has died. Daniels died of a stroke at 83 years old, a country music firebrand. May he rest in peace. This has been your News 8 Daily 8. For Wish TV, I'm Kylie Conway. Online at wishtv.com and follow us on Facebook when you search Wish TV.
Check out more podcasts from the All Indiana Podcast Network now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.
allindianapodcastnetwork.com.